Hey guys, Ginger here. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm bringing you guys my July wrap-up. I haven't done a wrap-up in 2 months because I have barely read anything, and what do you know? I read 13 books in July. Who is she? Oh my gosh. Yeah, so 13 freaking books. I am very proud of myself and very happy that I was able to read that many. I would say that like my normal average without a slump or whatnot is like 10, so I read 3 more than normal, and I'm very happy about that. So I have a few stats to share, and then we will talk about each book individually. So I read a total of 13 books this month, and the total number of pages read was 5,096, so over 5,000 pages, which is really awesome. None of the books that I read were under 300 pages, so everything is a decently sized book. So I'm very happy with that. My average rating was 4.05, so like a 4-star. And yeah, I had a lot of really good books this month, which I think that's another reason why I read so much, because I was really happy and excited with everything I was reading. And so to break down my star ratings, we had 1 2.5, so the lowest was a 2.5, 2 3 stars, 1 3.75 star, 3 4 stars, 3 4.5 stars, and 3 5 stars. So yeah, it was a really good reading month. We had a large array, but nothing was under 2 stars, so that was really good. And I will tell you guys what genre everything is when I'm talking about individual books, because I didn't really think to make a list. I just wrote them down with the books. So without further ado, let's get into talking about each book, and I will be going in order from the first one that I read in the month to the last one. So let's get into it. The first book I read was technically like right before July, but because I didn't do a June wrap-up, I'm putting it in here because it was like 2 days before, and that is The Second Home by Christina Clancy. This is a contemporary novel following the lives of Anne, Poppy, and Michael, who are siblings, and this book takes place first in 1999 and then secondly in present day, where our main characters are dealing with memories and current problems surrounding their family home on the Cape of Maryland. And I gave this one a 3.75. I really enjoyed the writing and the perspectives of the characters. I thought each character was written very uniquely and had a very clear personality. This does have trigger warnings, so if you're going to go into this, just be aware that there is mention of sexual assault and trauma and death of a loved one. So just if you are interested in this one, make sure you look up the trigger warnings first. The things I didn't really like about it were the romance that, well, one of the romances that occurs in this book and is a kind of central plot towards the end. It personally just was not one that I enjoyed, and it detracted from my overall enjoyment of the book, and so that's why I didn't really give this a higher rating. But I did think that it was fast-paced and I got through it very quickly, and I am glad that the publisher sent me a copy, even though I read it a little later than it came out. This book came out in June, so like I said, a 3.75, still pretty good. If you are into contemporary, especially hard-hitting contemporary, then this one might be one that you should pick up because it is that genre. The next book that I picked up was Axios End by Lindsay Ellis. This is her debut novel, and it came out on the 21st of July. This is a science fiction, so I was really excited to get my hands on it. And this takes place in an alternate past where we are in 2007 and extraterrestrial life has been discovered in the United States. So this follows our main character, Cora, who has been haunted by her father's kind of abandonment of her family due to his kind of conspiracy theories, and she finds herself face to face with one of these creatures, and a story develops around this encounter. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought that the way that the alien life forms were handled was really cool. I liked Cora as a character. I thought that there was a lot of interesting science stuff in here, and as a science person myself, I really appreciated that. The only reason I didn't give this a 5 was because there's something at the end that I kind of questioned, and there was also a few aspects of this that I was just unsure if it felt realistic to me, like if a person in this position finding out aliens live would react in the same way that Cora did. So those few things were why I didn't give this a full 5, but this was really fast-paced, really well written, and a great science fiction novel. So if you are into sci-fi, I definitely recommend you pick this up. Like I said, it is out now and it was really fun, so I am very glad that I read this. Next, I paused my ARC reading because I was focusing on that a lot this month to pick up The Dinner by Herman Koch, and this book is one that I've had on my TBR for a while, and it was one that I picked out of my TBR jar, and so I read it, and wow. I gave this one a solid 3, and it is technically like a thriller mystery novel, and all I'm going to tell you is that it follows 4 morally gray characters throughout the course of one evening meal, and that's about all you need to know going into it. I went into it completely blind, and I think that is the best way to read it. I know that a lot of people either loved or hated this book, and I lie somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't say enjoyed. I appreciated what the author did in this book and how the plot was handled, and I liked the segmentation of it focusing on one dinner. So each chapter is like appetizer, entree, dessert, that kind of stuff, and I really enjoyed that. I did think that the writing was kind of pretentious, which was probably what the author intended, but it was something that made it hard for me to read. So that was one thing, and then just kind of the overall feeling I had when I finished this was not good, and so I didn't think that if I'm rating this on enjoyment that it deserved really high rating despite the good things. So I decided on a very average rating for this because my thoughts are still not really complete on this, but I do think that I am content with a 3-star. So if you are intrigued in reading this short little book, it is only 300 pages, then I recommend you pick it up, but go into it pretty blind and know that it is a thriller with some questionable plot points, so just be aware of that. Moving back onto my ARCs, the next book that I picked up was The Book of Lost Names by Kristen Harmel, and this is a historical fiction that also came out on the 21st of July. This is set in France during World War II, and we are following our main character, Eva Abrams, who lives in Paris with her family, but she finds that she has to escape with her mother to the countryside, and she does so by forging a set of papers for them to get by, as they are Jewish. And word gets out about Eva's talent for her forgery, and she teams up with a rebellion who is helping Jewish children escape from Paris, and it's just a really awesome book. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. It did make me almost cry at the, well, okay, I cried a little bit, but I mean almost bawl at the end. It was really good. It was a solid 4 for me up until the very last like 25 pages, and then it was a 5 out of 5 stars. I have really been intrigued and interested with getting into historical fiction lately, and so that's why I had requested this one, and I'm really happy that I did and I got to it this month. I would definitely recommend this if you're a historical fiction lover, if you like reading books about World War II, or if you're just looking for a really heartwarming / heart-wrenching book about a kind woman. I mean, that's what this is at its core. And this is based on a true story, so that makes it even more powerful in my opinion. So Book of Lost Names is probably one of my new favorites of the year, and I am just really excited to read more historical fiction because of this. The second to last arc on my list is The Night Swim by Megan Golden, and this one comes out on the 4th of August, so just in a couple days, and it is a thriller. If you didn't already know, Megan Golden had another book that came out last year called The Escape Room that was also a thriller, but this one is pretty different. This follows Rachel Kroll, who is the creator of a crime podcast, and she is in a small town on the coast following a trial surrounding the rape of a young girl in the town. And besides this trial, she receives a slew of mysterious letters that are pleading for her to help solve the murder of a young girl who died 20 years prior in the same town. And so I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was pretty freaking good. The thing that I loved about it the most was that it was very realistic. A lot of times domestic thrillers have this stretch to them that is like almost unbelievable, but this one, I believed every second of it. I thought that everything in here could have happened, and that was something really important to me, as well as the fact that it was really fast paced and it had different perspectives throughout the book, and I really enjoyed it. I honestly now don't remember why I gave it or didn't give it a full 5. I think there was maybe just 1 or 2 small things that I didn't like. I did talk about it more in my weekend books, so I will link that in the corner above if you want to hear more about why I didn't give it a full 5. But I will again say that this has definite content warnings, so go into this aware that there's tons and tons of talk about rape and sexual assault. It is pretty much the focus of this book, so if that is something that you are uncomfortable with or unable to read, then I would not recommend this. But if you do not have any triggers to that type of content, then I do recommend picking this up, especially if you like books with podcasts, as this does have a podcast element, and if you like a good domestic thriller that has a believable twist. So I really enjoyed this. Like I said, it comes out on the 4th, so if you are interested in picking this up, be on the lookout as it'll be out very, very soon. The last arc that I read was on NetGalley, so that was my first NetGalley book. I was really excited, and thank you to Flame Tree Press for approving me, and that was After Sundown, edited by Mark Morris. And this is a horror anthology with 20 stories included in it, and there are authors such as CJ Tudor and Grady Hendrix included in here, and I gave it a 3-star rating overall, and this was just me combining all of the individual ratings into one and averaging them out. So it was a very, very all over the place read for me. There were some 1 stars, some 5 stars, a lot of in-between stars, and I just thought that this was a very average horror anthology. There are 2 short stories in here that I really enjoyed, and if you would like to know which ones they are, I do have a full review up on Goodreads, and it gives my individual ratings on there. I also talked more about it in, again, my weekend books, so I will, again, that will be linked somewhere. I think that this book could be really interesting for a spooky readathon in October, because it's always good to have like an anthology in a readathon, and it does come out in October, so that's why I said October. And I just think that if you are a veteran to horror, this might not necessarily be the book for you, but if you are looking to get into horror, or you like some of the authors that are included in this anthology, then I do think you should pick it up. But it's going to be to each their own, and what horror means to you when reading this book. Then I read 2 books that I was very excited to get to, and I did actually do a whole reading vlog on it, so I will again link that up here and in the description so you can go ahead and watch that. But I finished the arc of a Scythe Trilogy and read Thunderhead and The Toll by Neal Shusterman. The Thunderhead received a 5 and The Toll received a 4.5 for me, and overall this series is a 5-star, and I would recommend it to everyone. I can't really go into much detail about what these are about, as they are sequels to Scythe by Neal Shusterman, but Scythe is about 2 characters, Citra and Rowan, who are training to be scythes, which are people who kill people in a world where death has been eradicated naturally. And I just really think that Neal Shusterman has what it takes to write a good dystopian novel, and he has a really great writing style, and I just enjoyed the entirety of both of these, and I read both of them in just a couple days because I flew through it and did not want to put them down. And these are both considered YA dystopians, I would say, although, I mean, yeah, they do feel kind of YA, but like they're very strong, and even if you are more of an adult reader yourself, I do think that these would be good for you to pick up too, because they have really good world building and content in them. And like I said, I did have a vlog, so I will not go too much more into depth, but I did really enjoy these, and I'm super glad that I finally finished the series. The last 5 books were technically all books on my Reading Rush TBR. I only finished 3 of them during the time of this, and the last week of July, which is totally fine. If you didn't know, I got very sick the last weekend in July, and I did not really pick up any books, and that delayed a lot of things. And besides, with recent events accruing around things that the Reading Rush hosts have done, I really am not supporting that readathon anymore anyway, so it's not really a big deal that I didn't finish, because what's more important to me is that I read books. So although these were intended for that readathon, I am not really going to talk about the readathon, just the books, so just be aware of that. The first one that I read was The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd, and I really don't even know how to explain this. A contemporary classic coming of age story, I guess. This follows our main character, Lucy Owens, who is haunted by the memories of her mother's death many years in the past, and one day, because of some very serious events that happen, she decides to leave her home and go in search of answers surrounding her mother's past. And in doing so, she meets an eccentric group of Black women who take her in and kind of help her grow and learn about herself as a person. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5. I thought that it was really good and powerful for what it was. This is set in the 1960s, so during segregation. And I had mentioned in the vlog where I talked about this that despite the fact that this was 80 years ago, there are aspects in this book that are still applicable to today, and it's really sad because we should just not have to worry about racism in today's culture, but we do. And so yeah, I thought this was powerful. I thought this was a really good coming of age story, and Lily's growth throughout the book was really well done and portrayed. The only thing that really brought this down to a 4 for me is that I did not personally connect to her story, and despite the fact that this was a good book, it did not bring any epiphanies to me or anything, so I just enjoyed it for what it was, and so that made me give it a 4. If you have not picked this up and you are interested in what it holds, I do still recommend it. It is, like I said, kind of a classic, and could be wrong about that. I think it's kind of a classic. I don't know. I really don't know. So yeah, I'm glad that I read it, but it's not necessarily a life-changing book for me. Next, I read The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chakshi, and this is a YA historical fantasy. And this was my least favorite book of the month. Unfortunately, I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It just didn't do it for me. I read the first third physically, and then I listened to the rest on audiobook, and this follows, I think, 5 or 6 characters who are kind of like roguish teens, and they are living in the late 1800s in France, and there is a magic system with houses and matriarch patriarch powers and that kind of stuff, and they are on a quest to discover the secrets of these houses and restore a fallen one, as one of the characters is the fallen heir to this house. So it's just kind of like a lot, and it did not connect to me. I did not connect with the characters. It felt like a poorly written heist novel, and heists necessarily aren't really my favorite anyway. So there was really nothing in here that connected me to it at all. I thought that the writing style was good. I think that Roshani Chakshi has a good writing style, and her idea was cool, and how it was set in this historical time frame, and there was a lot of talk of like math and science in here that I enjoyed, but overall it just didn't speak to me. I didn't like it, so I gave it a 2.5. Don't even know why I gave it a 2.5. I could have probably given it a 2. That's probably more like it. I don't know. But I will not be keeping this, and I will be passing it on to someone else. If you would like it, it is a signed copy. So if you would like to give this a try yourself and it seems like it's something up your alley, let me know in the comments or DM me, and I will see about getting this your way, because I am not going to keep it. That's all there is to it. Next, I managed to read a very beloved book, which is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak, and obviously I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. This was such a fast-paced, wonderful historical novel, and I'm sad that it's taken me this long to get to it, but I'm also glad that I finally did pick it up. This is set in Germany during World War II, and it follows our main character Liesel, who is thrust into a small town after her mother can no longer take care of her, and she gets a new set of foster parents, and it takes place over the course of 4 of her childhood years from 10 to 14, and is told in the perspective of death. And so writing style, really great. The story itself, really great. I loved Liesel as a character. I loved what this had to tell you, and I somehow managed to not bawl like a baby, but I did tear up, and the only reason I think that I did is because I knew going into it that it was going to be sad. So yes, the end of this is sad. It takes place in World War II. I don't know what you expect. But something I really enjoyed about this was that it's taking place, or it's in the perspective of, well, not in the perspective, but like it's a story about a German girl. It's not a Jewish girl. And yet it still is very powerful, and I think that this book is very well written, and I think that a lot of people need to read this if you haven't, and I'm definitely going to make my children read this. I think it is a very, very good and eye-opening book, and I'm just very glad I read it. It is one that I needed to get to, and I did. So this was my 3rd 5-star. So what, wouldn't you believe it, 2 of my 5 stars were historical fiction books. I think we know what I need to read soon. I have a whole historical fiction shelf. I just need to get to it. Second to last, we have Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, and this book I originally did pick up because of the reading rush, because it was their group book. So I bought it because I wanted to read it, and I'm very, very glad that despite everything, I did pick this up because it was really wonderful. So I would say this is kind of like a contemporary coming of age something kind of story. Again, I don't really know how to classify it besides good. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really well written. I thought that it had a really good message, and everything was really interesting. It also took place in Philadelphia, so yay, a Pennsylvania book. So this follows Amira Tucker. Well, technically there are 2 different perspectives in here. There's Amira Tucker, who is the babysitter, and Alex Chamberlain, who is the mother of the child Amira babysits. And so at the beginning of this book, Amira takes Briar, the child, to the grocery store, and she's accused of kidnapping her, and this unravels a series of events that is portrayed in this story that really help Amira, well, not really help Amira, but they surround her and kind of lead to her growing in this book. And it's kind of hard for me to like explain, because I think that besides knowing the fact that the first few chapters are her being accused, and then like the rest of the story is following those events, I think that's like all you really need to know to go into this, and I think you should just take it with an open mind and enjoy it for what it is, because it's a really powerful book. And I know a lot of people have said that this book is really important as it shows how Black women are used to legitimize fake wokeness, and I thought that this was a very powerful novel, and I'm very glad that I read it, and I think that it just kind of is eye-opening for the challenges that Black women face in society, and I enjoyed it, and I thought that the ending was very powerful. I think that was one of the most important things to me, and I really enjoyed this. I flew through it, and so if you have not picked this up and you've been debating on it, I definitely recommend it. It is probably it's one of the most important books I've read this year so far, so I'm very glad I picked it up. And then the last book that I read this month, I managed to finish yesterday, so go me, was Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. And this is another science fiction. I read 2 science fictions this month. I'm very excited. So this follows, well, this starts with a character, Rose Franklin, who is bike riding one day and she falls into a hole and lands in a giant robotic hand. And then the rest of the story takes place years later, where Rose and a group of individuals are called together to research and figure out more about this hand and what it means, and if there are more powerful aspects to this than anyone believes. And I thought this was a very interesting book. It is told in a perspective mostly of like interviews, and I kind of really enjoyed that. It made it go by pretty fast. And the one thing that she does in here is really creates unique characters that do not sound similar. Like, you know every single character by their speech pattern, even if you forget to look at the, like, whoever's talking. Like, you just know who is there. And I think one of the strongest aspects was the plot cliffhanger at the end, and without that, I probably would have been like, this was a good book all by itself. I don't need to continue. But now I'm very interested to see what is in stock for the rest of this trilogy, and I just thought it was really good. There was a lot of science in here that was powerful. There was a lot of character building, a lot of mysterious components, and I'm really glad that I picked it up. And I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't like mind-blowing, but I really did enjoy it, and it was a little slower for me to get through than some other books, but that aside, it was really fun, and I cannot wait to continue on with this series. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 13 books that I managed to get through in July. I am very, very happy that I was able to do that, and I have very ambitious plans for August, kind of. I just want to read a lot of books in August, so hopefully this month's power and success can be continued on into the next month. Let me know in the comments below what you guys ended up reading in August, if there are any books that I read that you really enjoy as well, and if you guys participated in anything exciting last month, and how many books you guys finished. That would be fun to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more of my content in the future. My August TBR will be going up soon, so keep a lookout for that. And I really hope you enjoyed this wrap up, and maybe there'll be a few books that you want to add to your TBR now. Who knows? Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!